Hi, everyone. It's Cory with Spiritual Sunshine. The spiritual world is something many of us don't think too much about because, who came from there to tell us about it? Oh, that's right. NDEers, near death experiencers. So have other mystics and sages come back from what they call the spiritual world or the afterlife or another dimension. In fact, we have people who take certain drugs that also come back and describe amazing realities with really trippy beings just underneath the surface of what we call our material world or our material universe. And yet it's not quite so material, quote unquote, is it? As we learn through physics, everything is pretty much empty space. And what we call matter is energetic uh, interactions with different properties stacked on top of other interactions with other properties, and all these other forces that seem to center around each material, quote unquote, particle or wave or blur, if you think about it. And we call that matter, right? My hand doesn't go through my other hand. Why? Because of magnetism, actually, because of the interaction of the torus of matter. And yet we pretend like we don't know what gravity is. And gravity, of course, just being the dielectric of magnetism. We call it magnetism when things attract, but actually magnetism is the repelling force, something I've learned spending too much time on YouTube. But whatever you call it, all things are attracted to each other. It's just that sometimes metal, because they're all pointing in the same direction, is a stronger magnetic force for other dense particles, being metals. And that's why they seem magnetic more so than Earth. And yet we know, because we have gravity, that of course all matter is magnetic. In fact, we know that because of the magnetic field of Earth. We know that because of the magnetic field of the solar system, which interacts with the entire uh, galaxy, which of course interacts with the universe. And we see all these magnetic, let's call it interactions, these properties of the energy we call matter. And we see the spaciousness and we see the strange effects of certain things. And in fact, in most of our lives, we have some accounting of the paranormal. We have some example that we keep in our back pocket. We know someone who saw something unexplainable, maybe multiple things unexplainable. And now, of course, we hear on the news that it's starting to be okay to think about these things as being real. Oh, wow. Thank you. Finally, right? Funny enough, that's where our world is at, often turning things around and starting from the material viewpoint instead of starting from the only thing we know is real on a personal level, the conscious viewpoint. In fact, science makes a big deal about pointing out every level of theory in an idea, right? Oh, well, this is a theory. We don't know that for fact. Even though we have these experiments done, it's still a probability. And that could be wrong. Probability means, yes, maybe 95%, 99.9999% probably accurate. But by definition, it's saying there's a chance it's not. And in fact, we see in certain circumstances that certain experiments don't work. We say, oh, well, that's because of some other variable. And yet, the one thing that we tend to gloss over in our science is the fact that we all know. And it's the only fact you can really say you know, right? You're conscious. Everything else is a theory. Some people call this universe a hologram. And we're willing to listen to it. And yet, we forget the fact that, oh, the universe is a hologram is a theory. The universe is this or that is a theory. Even the fact that there's other people, maybe this is all a simulation, is a theory, right? I think there's a lot of evidence for that theory. But really, the only fact that science should always highlight in every experiment is that those doing the experiment, the results are found in consciousness. In consciousness. Yes, our modern day physics tell us that even scientific experiments, computer simulations even, don't have an ultimate answer sitting on a file until someone looks at it. If it's going through a bunch of processes, those processes are in a wave-like state, a nebulous state, until someone interacts with that document, that answer, whatever it is, for the first time. Crazy enough, I know. That's what the experiments show us, modern experiments. I used to dismiss all the physics stuff as mumbo jumbo. Oh, it's not consciousness, it's the measurement. And yet, proven wrong, here I am, talking once again about life. Yes, all things arise in life. And that should be the starting point of our science. These things arise in life. Without them, or without life, without us, these things don't exist. We tend to think about it the opposite way. And yet our sages, our wisdom teachers, even Christ himself taught us that heaven starts with us. Awareness, the joys of life, the meaning of creation starts within. And we should turn to it, pay more attention to it. Yes, so ultimately, you don't have anything to worry about. At least you as consciousness. Now, sometimes our minds are in such a distorted state, sometimes due to, experiments or experiences outside of our control, both, unfortunately. And yet that consciousness that sees that dysregulated mind is perfect regulation. It is the regulation. It's in fact what we think of as stillness that allows us to see anything that arises within it. Without that stillness, without that peace, we'd have no base to observe. There'd be no life. Some of us think we've done such terrible things, and maybe we're in the midst of doing terrible things, which we should stop, that we think that we can never find heaven and that our best bet is to dominate and control the whole world. Funny enough, that's how some people think. And yet that consciousness that sees that, the actual you, that sees the mind with all its scheming and disparate parts sometimes, is life itself. It's the light of the spiritual sun. It's the light of God, the light of, yes, Jesus Christ. Now, some of us have other names for Christ. That's okay. Christ said he's the way, the truth, the life. Krishna said something very similar and expresses it in the Bhagavad Gita through such beautiful terms. I don't have a hope in memorizing all of them. Some of the beauty may help, but I don't know it. Don't know those verses very well. But I do remember when Krishna shows himself to Arjuna, all these expressions of what God is appear to Arjuna. Krishna becomes monstrous beings, changing shape, all these different animals, all these eyes, all this and that, and everything you can imagine. And then more so, it blows Arjuna's socks off. And Krishna essentially says, that's scratching the surface. That's what God is. That's what life is. And although we were taught, unfortunately, in the West, that Hinduism is polytheistic religion, Hinduism even being not the best term always. In fact, Hinduism, the Vedic tradition, actually says that God is part of everything and it's one. It's so one is too limiting a number for it. It's just God. You could say the mystic Emanuel Swedenborg said something similar when he said, all substance is made from part of God. part of God. And really, the reason for evil, according to this 18th century mystic, is to allow that expression of God to grow in seemingly finite vessels. God is already infinite, all those things that Krishna showed. You can't put words to it, not even Jesus, which of course is a mispronunciation. But Yeshua, Yahushua, whatever Christ called himself in his day, we have good names for him. Jesus, Christ, God, Jehovah, Jehovah in the flesh. And all these things express themselves, all these things connect to just knowing that all is God. All is God. Jesus said, I am the vine, you are the branches. He's saying we're one. He said, I am in you. I'm already in you, he said. Be in me as I'm in you. Because the fact of the matter is, although we seem, and we know we are, part of life, we all seem to be one in this universe that is all interconnected. You can't live without heat and gravity, among many, many other things. There's behavior and there's thought that God will use as a tool to grow others, to grow ourselves, but that isn't actually that healthy. There's behavior that we call evil or selfish that is seemingly apart from God, and God will take that and burn it. Not because he wants to hurt people. I don't think actually that any consciousness spends eternity in hell. No. But the mind, the part of our minds that are caught in evil, that sense of a self that's all angst and anger, controlling, selfish and gross in a lot of ways sometimes. Yes, that will go through what we call hell, right? Until it's gone. It's like a new mind. I don't know about you, but I've gone through enough journeying along the way. I've been making these videos with the Swedenborgian Church of North America for what? 2025, 7 years now. And yet I can say, despite talking about spirituality this whole time, that I've changed a lot through this journey. I can't really say that I'm the same person I was 7 years ago. Now, I will say I'm very similar. There is a sense of continuation. Some of us have that more than others. And yes, there are times when things have blown up in my life to teach me to let go of what wasn't serving me. Teach me to let go of the dam I built against the currents of creation. That's all hell really is. We can make a lot out of it. We can create an identity around it, actually. Not just hell, but all these things that aren't serving us, right? And yet, time and time again, we'll be battered until we're willing to let go of that sense of separation, really. That need to control and condemn. Yes, I think today is one of the last days, you could call it. We're going through an epoch of transformation on earth today. And I do believe it'll end with the New Jerusalem, what many traditions have called a paradise at the end of times, when people have become so cruel, so hurtful, so selfish, and all these immoralities abound. And when you read it, it sounds a lot like today, right? A lot like these days. When you read those end times, we can say to ourselves, well, it doesn't seem too bad. Sounds like Tuesday on earth nowadays. So that is telling us something. If we're going to give any of these prophecies any weight, which I do recommend we do, just because, if no other reason, all these traditions from the Hopi Native Americans to uh, Turkish tribes in the last few thousand years to the Zoroastrians to the Muslims, the Christians, the Jews, the Buddhists even talk about a culmination of time when through the darkest night we come out to the dawn. Now, some of us don't want to believe that because we've bought too much into the dark, I think. Or we think if it's a dawn, it's our dawn. With all our slaves, all our subservient friends, all our power and control over others at the ready. That's not a dawn, my friend. It's not a dawn for you, and it's not a dawn for me. That is not the dawn. And those in that kind of power will feel like they're going to get away with it until it's too late. Because how else do you catch a thief in the act? Catch them red handed, that's the best way. Right when they think everything can only go their way, the lights switch on and the finger is pointed. And so we are well pressed to do that for ourselves today so that we don't find ourselves in the churn they call reincarnation, hell. I don't know what you believe in, but that. That hellishness that the, the Buddhist scriptures, funny enough, talk a lot about. It's a funny thing to go into because most of us don't believe that Buddhism talks a lot or anything about hell. And yet I found hell mentioned most in Buddhist scriptures, even more so than Christian. But let's leave that to the side and just say it's in our best interest to center on the heaven that is your light, that consciousness. So how do we do that? What's a good practice? I find centering in the body to be a really helpful practice. This is a new one for me. I think we all do it to some degree. That's why we take breaths. That's why we focus on, I don't know, our forehead. My dad taught me to meditate as a kid by lifting up my eyes and looking at my forehead. And I did a little bit, but not really. But yes, that kind of practice where you set your attention somewhere in the body, I've found that to be very helpful recently. Not the forehead one, but you can bring your attention to other parts of your body, perhaps your heart, perhaps your breath. But I find it's best to center on a place that doesn't move. Not that it's not moving, but your focus is on a specific spot that's not shifting. So if I focus on my lungs, I'm focusing on the area of my lungs, and I'm not focusing on the breathing. There's time for that, right? That can be helpful to find a good rhythm, long and deep. But honestly, it's about that peace we find when we center in a place in our body. Because when we talk about our body, just as our physics have told us, we're actually talking about consciousness. Not that our body is consciousness, it is, but we're not talking about that right now. No, the fact that if you focus on a place of your body, it's a place of peace. If you focus within your hand, for example, most of the time there's no sensation there, especially if you go in the middle, right? Within. There's no sensation there. Sometimes there could be a pain in the hand. But if you leave your focus on a specific spot, you'll find that all these thoughts about pains and fears and anxieties fade. And as you continue to return to that place in your body, just as our physics tells us, you'll feel this emptiness, right? This openness that allows sensation when it's necessary, convenient, good. And then as we get used to that kind of meditation, maybe we don't always meditate on that point of focus, but we find more peace, more life. But I do recommend choosing a spot because we tend to fall back into bad habits. I don't know about you. Whether that's getting caught in my fear, a feeling of disturbance or uncomfortability, of annoyance. We tend to have this identity that's tied to our emotions. Not that emotions aren't good, they are good. Even the negative ones should have their light, their time in the sun. But often when we identify too much with it, we actually don't let the emotion have its day. We let our reaction to the emotion have its day. We let our identity have its day with the emotion. And we're not dealing with our real issue. We become anger outwardly to hide from the anger within. We lash out because we're not willing to accept. And so, yes, allowing these things, but staying grounded in the body can kind of free us from the back and forth of, well, okay, I'm feeling my emotions, but am I feeling it enough? Have I gone back to the root of the problem enough? Do I need to do this or that and all these things? Whereas in reality, the solution is us the whole time. That song, I'm the problem, it's me? Well, that's actually true. But on the flip side, we're also the solution. You are the solution. It's you. Your natural spiritual sunshine, that light of God that we call consciousness, that we call the universe, is always peace. It reveals things, it allows cause and effect. But even that arises in the peace of our light of consciousness. And when we ground a focal point on our breath, let's say, allowing, normal bodily sensations to happen at the same time, even thoughts to come up, not stomping on things. But when we focus into the body or into a place of peace, let's say, those things pass and we let them. It's already true, but unfortunately, a lot of us are really good grave diggers for ourselves. We tend to uncover our own dead bodies, our old anger, our old fears, our old condemnations of ourselves and others, our old modalities that aren't serving us. But if you look at the world today, it's the perfect time. And in fact, the astrology tells us, with all the outer planets changing and all these things that people talk about, that now is a great time. And indeed, that New Jerusalem is not only descending around us, it will primarily be descending from within us. And so, no, we don't need a chip in our head to keep us from feeling. That will lead to catastrophe. And we also don't need to jump in to spaceships to escape global warming or something. No, that could be fun, jumping into spaceships, but giving up our autonomy to conglomerates or Elon Musk or somebody is not going to serve us. Their interests lie in power often. No, we honestly will all benefit, even the worst lizard king out there, on seeing the unity that we have in consciousness. It's not just because human beings are being so oppressed that I say this. It's also because those of us oppressing others, even in our family systems, even on the road, right? We try to oppress others. It's not fun. No matter how much fun we get out of the glee of something so terrible that most people don't want to talk about it, that consciousness is the true source of glee, the true source of joy. Your consciousness is the thing you share with, dare I say it, the cockroaches. And the more room we give for others' light, the more we find in ours, the more room, the more spaciousness, the more peace and truth and calm, and the more love, the more joy, the more true pleasure and everlasting life. So as Christ said, we should turn within, turn to the heaven within, know that we are one with the Christ as he's one with us, as he said, I am in you, be in me as I am in you. Be one with me as I am one with the Father. Be perfect as the Father God is perfect. These things can fall away from our modern Christian view sometimes if we are Christian, because it's in the interest of, dare I say it, Satan, dark forces, to keep us divisive and divided from God. Oh, it's humble to separate yourself from the divine. No, God never brought that word to us. God was always asking, because if he had to say it, he knew what the problem was, for us to allow a unity, to allow our natural unity. It's already there. There's a consciousness in you that can never be destroyed, although unfortunately sometimes our minds can be. So blessings to you, to your heart, to your love, to the one that we all are. And go forth knowing that you are spiritual sunshine.